So I have struggled to find a good overhead rig as well as just a good kind of A-roll setup in general for the last few years. Something that's reliable, easy to move around, adjustable, good for A-roll, good for B-roll, good for overhead shots. And I think I have found pretty much the perfect option that lets me go from this shot to very quickly going to this shot to going to this shot, and then also very quickly going to this shot. All right, so I'm going to show you how this works. We'll flip it around. Basically, there are two different knobs on the camera head itself. You see I have this actually attached to a Manfrotto or third-party Manfrotto quick release plate that's on top of their existing quick release plate, which you can see right here. I just have everything going to a Manfrotto one for all my setups, so that's why I have that. So the first thing you can see here is this little knob, and this allows you to adjust the pan side to side, and then you can lock it in. And then we have this adjustment here, which will actually change the ball head joint. And you see if I loosen that up, immediately the camera falls. This allows you to go between overhead shots, you can do vertical shots, and you can also adjust it to do overhead shots. And it really is that simple. Of course, you do have to maneuver with this little groove here if you're doing the overhead shot, because otherwise this is a vertical overhead shot, and if you want the standard horizontal overhead shot, you're going to have to tilt it like this, and then use the pan knob to get the overhead shot. So I just locked that in, and now I can use the pan feature to get the overhead setup just like that. And I'll go ahead and lock it. And you see I don't have it set perfectly, but you can get the idea of what that looks like. And then you can actually lower it or raise it really smoothly and really easily. Now the downside of this design is that this arm is pretty long, so I actually wouldn't really be able to do overhead shots in this camera setup if I was using it from this side of the table. So I have to have it off to the side, which is why I have it like this. But if you have a bigger table and you're actually able to mount this to the kind of center or front of the table, and you have more space going this way, then you could do this a more traditional angle. But you can see what this looks like for this particular overhead rig. And this is super solid. You know, if your desk wiggles a little bit, like my desk actually does wiggle a tiny bit, the wiggles will come through to the camera, so you'd be careful with that. But when I use it for my desk over here that doesn't wobble as much, I don't have that issue. And you can see the vertical aspect of this stays pretty consistent, so it doesn't really move left and right all that much as you're going up and down. And then you can push this back a little bit, but there is a natural barrier. You see this metal rod here prevents it from going back any further, which means that this is basically as far back as you're going to get. And then you can go up and down from there, pretty much all the way down to the table. And then you can see there's also a natural barrier up here with this metal rod. So this is as far up as you're going to get. But if you tug it forward, you can see that you can give it a little bit more elevation. So this is pretty much the max height you're going to get out of it. And I'm using a pretty standard IKEA tabletop, and you see there's still plenty of room if you have a bigger desk to fit for this grommet. And if you want this whole setup to go even higher, you can actually raise it by this much. So you can see I have it on the bare minimum height, but you can use that metal bar to raise this even further into the air. So yeah, I've actually been super happy with it. It's very versatile, and I haven't really found a situation yet that it doesn't work. The only time it gets a little bit annoying is when I have things plugged in like HDMI and battery pack and an audio cable. Then it does get a little wonky when I'm trying to switch the angles and switch the positions, but sometimes I'll just have to unplug things and plug them back in. So overall, I'm like really pleased with this. It's basically replaced a tripod for me. It's a really great overhead solution, especially if you have a sturdy table that doesn't wobble too much. I think it's great. You can also just get really good tracking shots. You can see like right now I'm moving it. It's really smooth. You can get some pan shots. It's just really, really impressive. It basically feels like you're using a fluid head on a tripod, but again, it's super easy to adjust the height. It's basically a dolly, right? Like it's great. You can easily go, slightly under or slightly above and, tilt it down. So all in all, I am very impressed. And I'll leave a link down in the description if you want to check this out.